what's your message to Democrats who don't want you to run again?
They want me to run.
2/3 say they don't.
Read the polls. Read the polls, Jack. You guys are all the same. That poll showed that 92% of Democrats, if I ran, would vote for me.
A majority of Democrats say they don't want you to run again in 2024.
92% said if I did, they'd vote for me.
All right, guys. So we got to talk about old sleepy Joe Biden, who has woken up from his slumber temporarily to announce that he is running for president in 2024. Yes, Joe Biden is running for president again for re-election in 2024. Take a look.
This is CNN breaking news.
And we do begin with big news. Big news, significant breaking news. President Biden has made it official, announcing he is running for re-election. Just moments ago, he released this announcement video. Watch.
Freedom. Personal freedom is fundamental to who we are as Americans. There's nothing more important, nothing more sacred. That's been the work of my first term, to fight for our democracy. This shouldn't be a red or blue issue. To protect our rights, to make sure that everyone in this country is treated equally and that everyone is given a fair shot at making it. But you know, around the country, MAGA extremists are lining up to take on those bedrock freedoms, cutting Social Security that you paid for your entire life while cutting taxes for the very wealthy, dictating what health care decisions women can make, banning books, and telling people who they can love, all while making it more difficult for you to be able to vote. When I ran for president 4 years ago, I said we're in a battle for the soul of America, and we still are. The question we're facing is whether in the years ahead we have more freedom or less freedom, more rights or fewer. I know what I want the answer to be, and I think you do too. This is not a time to be complacent. That's why I'm running for re-election.
Yeah, so you've seen that, you heard that. That is Joe Biden's announcement video that he's running for president because presumably he's too old to go out and make a speech the old-fashioned way to announce that he's running for president. He might F it up, okay? He might F it up. So his handler said, let's just make a pre-recorded video and put it out there, and, you know, it is what it is, okay? And, again, part of the reason why is because, again, this guy up until this point has been polling absolutely disastrously among the American people. I mean, he's probably been one of the worst presidents in United States history, to be quite honest with you. Take a look.
The numbers are beyond sobering for President Biden.
We're seeing his leadership underwater on a range of issues around the economy, inflation, crime, far more than that even.
Only a quarter, 26%, said they think he should run for re-election.
40% say they are worse off financially than they were 2 years ago. The most negative response to that question in nearly 40 years of our polling.
Just a third of Americans in this poll, John, say yes, Joe Biden deserves to be reelected.
53% of 2020 Biden voters say he shouldn't run.
Less than a third of Democratic voters want to see him renominated.
And 76% of voters under 35 think he shouldn't run.
The economy, 37% approval. Immigration, 35%.
The 58% of Americans who disapprove of how he is handling the economy right now.
When 74% of Americans think the country's heading the wrong way, it's hard for the boss to say, give me 4 more years.
Just 30% of independents approve of the job Biden is doing overall.
70% think President Biden should not run again, compared to just 26% who think he should. And of those who said no, 48% said age was the major factor.
Yeah, so clearly the American people do not want this guy running again, including his own party, okay? Democrats are like, we don't want Joe Biden to be the nominee, okay? And because of that, you've had other potential Democratic presidential candidates jump into the arena to announce that, hey, we're going to run against Joe because, again, Joe is too old, Joe is too slow, and the American people don't want him. Even the Democrat Party does not want him, okay? You have people like Marianne Williamson, who was the first person to come out and to challenge Joe Biden. And then you also have Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who comes from a long line of kind of Kennedy politicians and political activists. He's also thrown his hat in the arena as well.
If you give government the license to silence its critics, you have given them the capacity to commit any atrocity they want and to obliterate all the amendments and rights of the Constitution. Oh, as soon as they got rid of freedom of speech, they went after freedom of religion. They closed every church in this country for a year with no regulatory process, no public hearing, no demonstration of science, no scientific citation to show that it was going to do any good. They kept the liquor stores open as essential businesses. But I remind you that liquor stores are not mentioned in the United States Constitution, and churches are. They took away our property rights.
And Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who you just saw there, he's running on an anti-establishment platform, okay? I mean, I actually read this guy's platform, and I'm like, this guy might be more conservative than a lot of mainstream Republicans, to keep it quite honest with you. Except when it comes to issues like climate change and renewable energy, where he's clearly a far leftist. He's a progressive on those issues. But on, you know, a lot of other issues like the national debt, inflation, civil liberties, the relationship between the government and big corporate America, again, he has some pretty good positions on some of those topics. Not a perfect guy, but I think he's an upgrade over Biden, to be quite honest with you, if I had to choose as a conservative. And he's actually doing very, very, very well against Joe Biden. He's already polling at 15% against old sloppy Joe. Take a look.
All right, you don't see this very often. A guy declares he's running for president and gets 14% support among Democrats in a potential matchup to take on the president of the United States. That Democrat is Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the eldest son of the late senator, presidential candidate, and attorney general.
Yeah, so of course the mainstream liberal media does what the mainstream liberal media does, because Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is a threat to Joe Biden already. And they come out and they smear him as a conspiracy theorist for essentially pushing back against the establishment narrative when it comes to Ukraine, the lockdowns, the vaccines. So yeah, automatically he's a conspiracy theorist. So cue the cackling hens on The View coming out here and repeating the liberal media propaganda about the guy because he's a threat to the Democratic establishment. Take a look.
This week, some of the biggest names in the anti-vax movement descended on D.C. for a rally to protest vaccine mandates. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr. repeated a comparison that really should never be made, but keeps being made in the anti-vax rhetoric. Take a look.
Even in Hitler's Germany, you could cross the Alps into Switzerland. You can hide in an attic like Anne Frank did. I visited in 1962 East Germany with my father and met people who had climbed the wall and escaped. So it was possible. Many died doing it, but it was possible.
You know, you just got to get your facts straight, first of all. And he's not the only person comparing vaccine mandates to Nazi Germany. But how can anyone be this misinformed? Not just about the vaccines and the mandates, but about history. How is it possible? And in fact, maybe it's possible because there have always been so many deniers. The playing field of the 2024 presidential race just got bigger after controversial conspiracy theorist Robert F. Kennedy Jr. announced he wants to carry on the Kennedy legacy in the White House, even though he admits members of his own family don't see eye to eye with him. Take a look.
I've come here today to announce my candidacy for the Democratic nomination for President of the United States. My whole family, including myself, have long personal relationships with President Biden. Many of my family members are working in the administration. Many of them also just plain disagree with me on issues like censorship, on war, on public health, and they are entitled to their beliefs, and I respect their opinions on them, and I love them back.
Yeah, so again, imagine Whoopi, the person who claimed that the Holocaust was not about race. Trying to correct somebody on their history when it comes to Nazi Germany and the Holocaust. Absolutely amazing stuff, right? But again, as you can see there, there's a liberal media hit job being done on Robert F. Kennedy Jr., calling him a conspiracy theorist because he doesn't go along with the establishment narrative when it comes to the pandemic, the virus, the lockdowns, the vaccine, Ukraine, right? So again, they've smeared him as a conspiracy guy, right? He's a conspiracy guy, which means that he's probably over the target, right? That's probably what it means, okay? But I'm just saying, you see what is happening here. And of course, the Democracy-crats respond to Joe Biden having a challenge to the presidency from Democrats by doing the most Democratic thing ever and canceling the 2024 primary DNC debates. Right? Yeah. So I want you guys to understand. You would think that the party of we need to protect our democracy, we love democracy, the party of voting rights would actually welcome some transparency in debate, right? For somebody to challenge the sitting president of the United States in their own party, but they actually chose not to do that, right? They actually have not scheduled, they're not holding 2024 primary debates. And a lot of Democrats are actually pissed about this, okay? Specifically the ones that are running against Joe Biden and also progressives like Nina Turner, who says the DNC refusing to hold a single primary debate is undemocratic and robs the voters of choice. No one who feels confident in their record or ideas would hesitate to stand on them. The DNC should hold debates. This is supposed to be a democratic process. Well, I mean, look, here's the thing, right? Anybody that's been paying attention knows that the Democrat Party is anything but democratic, okay? They don't actually really care about democracy. All they care about is power and control. And Joe Biden is very easy to control because he's lost his mind, okay? He's too old. He is a puppet. He's been handled. So they don't want to lose that power and control. The last thing they want is somebody with a brain like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to be in office or be the Democrat nominee because he goes against the establishment. Okay, and so does Marianne Williamson. Even though I disagree with her on a lot of things, she's not necessarily an establishment person. So they're going to do whatever they can to protect the establishment and the powers that be by being as undemocratic as possible and not holding debates. Because transparency and debating ideas is a threat to democracy, right? According to the Democrat Party, okay? It's a threat to democracy, aka the Democrat Party. Anything that's a threat to the Democrat Party is a threat to democracy. Which is why, again, they're doing the most undemocratic thing ever and not holding these primary debates. Now, here's the thing. It's not like this is unprecedented. This is something that has happened before in the past where usually the incumbent party in power doesn't hold primary debates, okay? They don't actually really hold a real primary, right? It's rigged. And I disagree with that, whether that be Democrats or Republicans. I don't care who's in office, even if Trump is in office. Yeah, they should hold an actual real primary and debate so that the American people can choose who they want to be the candidate for that party. It's really that simple. It's really that simple. So in a situation like this, right, unlike the Trump situation where Trump did have a couple challengers, I mean, who were completely just not even close to being able to beat him at all, okay? This is a little bit different because, again, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., he's polling at about 15%. He's actually a legitimate challenge to Joe Biden. He can actually beat Joe Biden. And the Democrat establishment knows that. They don't want to get Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on stage with Joe Biden to either, one, outright beat Joe Biden, embarrass Joe Biden, because, again, Joe Biden, as time moves on, he's clearly mentally deteriorating. And if Biden happens to still win the primary, he goes into the general election getting beat up by Robert F. Kennedy, who's probably going to challenge Joe Biden from his right, okay, for the most part, when it comes to the anti-establishment stuff. Yeah, I mean, I'm not necessarily sure if that's what they want. They want a hobbled Joe Biden going into a general election against Trump or DeSantis or whoever the Republican nominee is. That's the last thing they want. Wouldn't be surprised if they tried to pull Joe Biden out of the general election debates, citing a quote-unquote threat to democracy. Wouldn't be surprised. But again, as you can see here, this is just another example of how phony the rhetoric is from the Democrat Party when it comes to the whole democracy stuff. My democracy is under attack, right? But yet, despite the Democratic voters saying that we don't want Joe Biden to be our nominee anymore, the DNC is going out of their way to make sure that they rig the primary to make sure that Joe Biden is, in fact, the nominee. Again, absolutely amazing stuff. Absolutely amazing stuff. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.